I'm Danielle with Put a Finish on It. Everyone knows about the Diary of Anne Frank, but I only recently discovered the journal of another young woman who was alive during World War II and living in Paris at the time that everything was closing in. About a month ago, I finished reading the journal of Helene Berr, which was translated from the French by David Bellos and published in 2008. The journal begins in April of 1942 when Helene is 22. So she's a young French woman and a student of English studies at the Sorbonne during Nazi occupation. She's intelligent, literate, passionate, and finds joy or sorrow in everything and nothing in between. She sort of lives the idealism of poetry and life and love and beauty that you can ensconce yourself in when you're in academia. And she's from a prominent family who has a summer home in the country. She gives English lessons and plays the violin in a quartet in the evenings. And she's in turmoil over a boy. So this is the kind of life she begins recording in her journal. And I'll admit, reading someone else's journal, regardless of the author or the subject, can be a little mundane and frustrating at times. After all, she's recording events of daily life, like so-and-so came to tea, and because it's her journal, and she knows who everyone is, she doesn't give background or introduce the characters, and there isn't a structured plot except that we know what's coming. Helene does begin to write about the anti-Semitic legislation and the more and more frequent deportations. We read her reaction to wearing the star, and also we get to hear other people's reactions to her wearing it, both positive and negative ones. Helene, though, identifies as French, not Jewish. She doesn't think of Jewishness as a race, and she doesn't feel like she's part of a separate human group. And she doesn't feel any kinship or connection to all of the poor Jewish immigrants who have flooded France at that time. They're not part of her world until she's categorized with them, and eventually she starts volunteering to help the Jewish immigrant children. The family chooses not to leave Paris even as those around them are getting arrested. They feel like to leave would be to give in. So it's their way of taking a stand. When it becomes clear that they too will be arrested, it's too late for them to get out. In November 1943, gendarmes obey orders to start arresting children. Helene writes, "What more lamentable proof could there be of the mindless stupidity of the total collapse of moral awareness into which we have fallen? That's what is so dire. Is it not dire that I, reacting to and rebelling against this, am the exception? Whereas it ought to be the people who are capable of doing such things who are abnormal? Imagining that duty is unconnected to conscience and unrelated to justice, goodness, and charity shows just how inane our supposed civilization is." This journal was so difficult to read because, of course, we the readers know what happens. And further, Helene too comes to realize what will happen to her, and she writes about it. She writes that she expects her arrest and death, but does not accept it. She hears rumors of asphyxiating gas being administered to the convoys, and she knows that at least part of these rumors must be true. When I studied the Holocaust, I couldn't help but wonder, how much did they know? Did they have time to wonder about it and think about it all? And yes, Helene did. She hears from someone who avoided a convoy at Drancy what the convoys were like, and she has the exact same thoughts and questions that I did when I heard about them. Questions like, how did they empty the slop pails? How did they eat, breathe, move in the cattle cars? Same thoughts that we have when we read about it, she had as she was moving toward it. February 1944, she writes, "The monstrous incomprehensibility and illogical horror of the whole thing boggle the mind. But there's probably nothing to work out because the Germans aren't even trying to give a reason or a purpose. They have one aim, which is extermination." To read those thoughts, the same thoughts that we have when we study it, but from somebody who was living it at the time and who herself is about to be murdered, well, it's chilling. She fully articulates the incomprehensible illogicality of the German soldiers holding the door open for her one day and arresting her the next. She's in the camps for over a year, but of course there's no record of her life there because she does not make it out to continue recording her story. I do very much recommend this journal if you are at all interested in World War II, in Holocaust literature, in what life was like in Paris under the occupation, or if you're interested in discussions of morality and evil, because Helene does write eloquently on those topics. I also highly recommend, if you do read this, to read the supplemental material in the front and also in the back, before reading the journal, because there is a list of the people who appear in her journal and what happens to them if it's known. There's a really helpful overview of the history of Jews in France. The journal is, of course, an incredibly emotional and wrenching read, but a valuable one. That's it for me today. Thanks for watching.